Hey, welcome back to Eric Rios again. So glad you're here today. We're going to talk about how to communicate better in relationships. So that's a big question that's asked all the time. Well, how do I communicate better? People ask this all the time because sometimes we just absolutely suck at communicating. I'm just telling you, sometimes we just suck at communicating. Sometimes we make no effort to communicate. Sometimes we make no real effort to do it because we're uncomfortable doing it and we don't try to get better at it. So we're going to talk about how to communicate better in relationships. These are all my opinions. These are all the things that I've learned over all the years from being in business, being married, having kids, raising 6 kids, and all the things that I've done. So I've learned a few things about communication and what works and, well, what doesn't work. I mean, I'm just saying. Okay, so here we go. Ready? Why is this so important? Everything you do revolves around communication. That's why it's so important. Every single thing you do revolves around communication. Your personal life, your home life, your workplace, your business, strangers, going to the convenience store, going shopping. Hell, it doesn't matter. Everything you do revolves around some form of communication. So when people tell me that they can't talk, that they don't know how to talk, that they feel uncomfortable talking, I tell myself, wait a minute. You talk all day long. You talk every day. You talk to different people all day long. But typically what we fell in is we don't talk about what we're uncomfortable with. We tend to, to shy down and shy away from that. And we all communicate differently. So we're going to talk about how to make sure that we can communicate better to make sure that you are not being left by the wayside in your communication skills. This is horrible. One of the worst things you can do is not communicate. Silence kills more things than talking in many cases. So let's talk about communications. Why is it so important? Well, because it's part of your everyday life. Nothing happens without some form of communication. I'm just saying. All right. So number one, make sure the other person, when you're talking to them, that you have their attention. I always say, if you're looking, you're listening. So I tell you all the time, if you're looking at me, I know you're listening to me. So one of the things I see all the time, let me show you this, in communication in today's society is this. I mean, seriously, I'm here, see, I'm talking to you and I'm doing this and I'm going, oh yeah, 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 oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, 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 oh yeah. Well, wait, what'd you say? What'd you say? I mean, ask yourself this question. Is that really good communication? Hell no, it's not. It's horrible communication. You don't have the person's attention. You don't even know if they're listening to you. Their mind is somewhere else. And you do the same thing to other people. I've done it to my wife. I've done it to my kids. I've done it to people. I've done the same damn things. And I realized that that's horrible. And I stopped doing those things. I went to visit a guy out in Phoenix, Arizona, a guy named Andy Elliott. And the one thing I learned from Andy was this. Now, Andy, his business is doing shit. 120 million, 130 million a year as a business. And they're in the training industry. They train people in sales and success. My wife and I flew out there and we met with him, and we paid a pretty penny to be there to meet with this guy for 2 hours. And when he sat down in front of me, you know what you didn't see? Not one time did you ever see this in his hand. You know what he did? Not one time did you see him do this. And check this out. His offices are all glass. You can see everything going on behind him. If you were to look back there, you'd be like, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, because things are going on everywhere around him. But you know what I saw the whole time was this right here. Absolute focus. He focused all of his attention on myself and my wife and never wavered once from that attention. What does that tell you? We had his attention. He had our attention. When I saw what he did, I was so impressed because I paid a lot of money to go see another guy once as well. And I remember this guy just kept, every once in a while, here's his phone. He'd just look down at his phone, then look back up at me, look down at his phone, look back. I'm like thinking to myself, like, dude, like, what the fuck? You can do better than this. Is if I'm paying you to listen, I'm paying you to learn, I want you to give me your attention. So the thing is when you talk to someone, make sure you have their attention. Otherwise, what you say may go actually unheard. So just look at them. Make sure they're looking at you. And if you can do this politely, say, hey, do you mind putting your phone away so we can have this conversation? This is important. I'd really like to have this great conversation. And if they say no, we'll say, well, great. Then maybe you're not the kind of person I need to have a conversation with in the first place. Don't be afraid to walk away from a conversation if it's not going to serve your highest good. Your phone is your biggest distraction. When you're communicating, put the fucking phone away and have a conversation. Don't let that dictate what you do, what you don't do, and how you communicate. It is a fucking death sentence to your relationship that you have, whether it's business, personal, whatever the hell it is. Put it away. Make sure you've got their attention and make sure they have your undivided attention as well. This is how you accomplish things very quickly in communication. All right, here we go. Are you ready? Next one. Be clear about what you are communicating. I think one of my biggest pet peeves is when someone's trying to talk to you and they're just going this way, they're going this way, they're going that way, they're going this way, they're going that way, they're going this way, they're going that way. Then my eyes are going cross-eyed. My eyes don't even go cross-eyed. And they probably go cross-eyed when I listen to some people talk. I'm like, what the fuck? My eyes can't go cross-eyed on purpose. But they do want to hear some people talk sometimes because they're not clear about what they're communicating. It's horrible to communicate that way. Be very clear, precise about what you're trying to communicate. Because if you want someone to get what you're saying, you want someone to understand what you're saying, it's very important that you understand what you're saying. It makes it a lot easier. Don't mumble. I've seen this so many, and I've seen it, in my personal life, and I will hear this person mumbling, and I'm like, dude, you're mumbling. Talk normal. I want to hear you and I want to understand you. You're mumbling. He's like, oh, sorry. So make sure when you're talking, you're clear about what you're communicating and you're clear when you speak. This way you keep their attention. And they don't sit there like, huh, what the hell did he just say? What the hell did she just say? Like, what the shit? I just don't know. I mean, seriously, just make sure you're clear about what you're communicating to the person so that way they know what it is you are saying and make it easy to understand. Okay, next one. Okay, use a good tone and good body language. Tonality. I cannot tell you enough how important tonality is. Body language, I cannot tell you how important your body language is because you know what it's like when someone walks into your door at the end of the day. Maybe it's a husband, maybe it's a wife, maybe it's a coworker, maybe it's a boss. They walk in, they're like, and you're thinking, oh my God, what the fuck's going to happen now? Heads are going to roll now. Like, holy shit, here we go, girls. Here we go, boys. That body language, that tonality, both of those create an instant idea of a response you're going to get if you have that poor body language and that poor tonality when you go to talk to somebody. Think about how you're talking to them. Think about how you look. Think about what you're saying. Think about your body. Think, are you bent over? How you do you look, man? Does your face look like this? And does your face look like this? I mean, seriously, the end of the day, think about what you look like, how you're saying what you're saying, the tone of your voice, your eyes, your face, your shoulders. I would say roll your shoulders back, put your chest out, give yourself some confidence. It makes you feel better about who you are and have a great conversation. You don't have to be a dick every time you talk. I always said this, look, I can make you feel just as bad if I had to correct something. I can make you feel just as bad by just having a normal conversation with you versus yelling at you. I always said, I'm not going to yell at you because if I have to yell at you, I'm going to get rid of you. Like with employees, I would tell them all the time, look, if I have to get to the point where I'm yelling at you and I'm that mad, then I probably shouldn't have you there as an employee. And I would just get rid of that person because at that point, I'm like, they're not a good candidate to work with me and me to work with them. It was a two-way street. The key here is this. Your body language does so much more. And they've got phenomenal books on body language and tonality and all these different things. And you should look them up. You should look up videos on tonality and body language. It's a huge thing and it makes a huge difference when you communicate because sometimes when you just walk into a room, your body language all by itself is communicating something to those around you. Now, I would say this, when you roll your shoulders back, your chest comes out, you head up, and you walk into a room full of people, you've communicated to all the people that you are a confident person. Right? It makes all the difference in the world. So make sure that when you communicate, use good body language. And read up on body language, study that. And we're not going to go into that thing because I could do a whole thing on body language, and I'll probably do a video on body language just to do it because it's a lot of fun to talk about. But be conscious of what you're doing. Be aware of how you're acting. Be aware of your body structure. Be aware of your voice, how loud your voice is, how low your voice is. You can take it up, you can take it down. Be aware of what the other person's voice is. Mirror that voice, mirror that person, mirror their body. There's so many ways to communicate, and that's the cool part about this. Just make sure you're using good body language and good tonality, and it makes all the difference in the world for you. I promise you it does. All right, so here we go. Pay close attention to what you say and how you say it. We go back to body language, we go back to tonality. So if you're paying attention to what you're saying and how you say it, it makes a huge difference. Because think about this, your words dictate so many times a person's emotional response to what you just said, the words you use. So I would say pay very close attention to the words you're using, because you can just flip a word and all of a sudden it changes everything. So be aware of the words you're using, pay close attention to it, and then how you use those words. I mean, when you work in construction your whole life, you hear a lot of crazy things. I mean, I worked in construction since I was 18 years old. I've been everything, seen and heard everything under the sun. And you'll walk into a job, so you'll watch a guy walk up to a guy who goes, "Hey, what's up, motherfucker?" I mean, at no point was that rude or disrespectful. It's just how they talk to each other. But now that could be construed differently if you don't know your audience, and you could have done it with if your tonality was bad and your body language was bad, then they could take it as like, why did you just call me that? Like, what did I do? I didn't do anything. The point is to be very clear about and pay close attention to what you're saying and how you say it, because it makes all the difference in the world when you communicate, especially like a relationship in a marriage. Oh my God. Like, you didn't have to say that. I can just look at you and see what you thought. Have you ever heard that? I can just look at you and know you were thinking that. I mean, seriously, I've seen that. So I've been married, so I understand that well. I mean, I've been the person who had the poor body language, the poor tonality. I've been that same person like everybody else has. None of us are perfect with this, but I've learned to be better about what I say and how I say it, and my tonality and my body language, because I value the relationship through communication, because my communication dictates how well of a relationship I am going to have. If I can get this one thing in your head, your communication and how you communicate is going to determine how good of a relationship you will have. Your ability to communicate with that person you're with, especially if you're in marriage. If you're in marriage, holy shit, this is going to make a big difference. Learn to communicate better as a person. But I think people overcomplicate this too. I really do. I think people overcomplicate this way too much, and then they're like, and it becomes just so like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, versus just, just shut the fuck up. Okay, let's just focus on what we need to focus on and move this thing forward. That's the key. Find a way to communicate better, and I promise you, your life will change for the better all day long. See how my tone goes up, my tone goes down. I think about what I'm saying. So be aware of what you say and how you say it. All right. Next one. Here you go. You ready for this one? Not communicating is still communicating, and leaves the other person to wonder. This is a big one, I tell you. This is a big one. As they said on the show, it's the big one, Elizabeth. It's a big one. It's the big one, Elizabeth. I mean, I'm telling you right now, not communicating is still communicating. But the problem is it leaves the other person to wonder where you are, what you're really thinking, what you're worrying about, all these different things. I mean, it makes all the difference in the world if you communicate, and it makes all the difference in the world if you don't communicate. So if you're not saying anything at all, that silence is destroying that relationship. And sometimes you got to know when to talk and know when not to talk. They say, well, you got, 2 ears, 1 mouth. So sometimes just shut up. Now that can work in some cases, but when you're communicating in a relationship, because everything you do is relational, sometimes you need to just not talk and listen so you can understand, but make sure you still communicate that you understood what it was the person said and why it was so important to them. So make sure communication is so important, and make sure you're still saying something, because you don't want the other person to think that you don't care. You don't want the other person to think that you don't understand. You don't want the other person to have to feel like they don't know where you stand on a certain thing, whether this is work, at your home, your marriage, with your kids. It doesn't make a difference. Just make sure you're communicating with words, because they're going to make a big difference for you. I promise you. All right. So I would say this, the next one, find common ground. If you can find common ground, something that you can have a commonality with, that you can talk about together, that you both like, it makes communicating so much easier. If you both like a certain subject, I can assure you of one thing. It makes it simple to communicate. So part of what I teach with communication is this, is when you're talking to someone, whether it be a coworker, your spouse, or a friend, a stranger, try to find some common ground that you can lead into that conversation with. And it breaks down a lot of the barriers that you face sometimes in communication. It breaks down a ton of the barriers. This way, you don't have to worry about, not being able to know, what do I say? I don't know what to say. So use a soft tone, use something funny, use a joke, look at what they're wearing, talk about their clothes, talk about their job, talk about their dog, talk about their horse, talk about their monkey, their cow. It doesn't matter. Just find some kind of common ground of something that you can discuss that the person likes. And it just breaks the barriers down, especially when it's new. Now, if it's a marriage, your common ground, what your common grounds are. You know what those are in your relationship. Talk about those things. Try to keep things fun. Kind of try to keep things interesting. Don't just make everything so serious, and stop taking everything so personal when you hear someone communicate. Realize that maybe it's not personal. It's just how they communicate. And if you don't like it, say, hey, look, it really bothered me the way you said that. I mean, you probably had no ill intention, but it really bothered me the way you said that. So maybe next time, would you not talk to me that way? Because I didn't really like that. You see, what I did is I told them, I was very clear, and I told them what I wanted and why it was important to me. That's what I did. So find some common ground to talk about, and it makes that talking so easy. All right. Figure out what way you communicate the best. Everybody has an idea as to how they communicate the best. They really do. Everybody has a really good idea as to what way they communicate. I mean, are they loud? Are they quiet? Are they rude? Are they aggressive? We can just go through so many different scenarios of how you communicate, but figure out what way you communicate the best. So this way you can practice and do this over and over and over and over and over, but make sure what you're doing is getting you the end result of what you want. That's really important. Make sure what you're doing is getting you the end result of what you want. Because if your best communication skill is getting you nothing but negative feedback, then maybe you need to change how you communicate. That's important. Okay. So figure out how you communicate best. All right. Just two more quick ones. Practice your communication skills. Practice. So I think one of the best things someone could do is go to a Toastmasters. Toastmasters teaches you how to communicate. It teaches you how to talk in front of people. It teaches you how to be uncomfortable and become comfortable talking in front of people. Practice your communication skills. Pre-plan how you want to talk. So when you think about someone who gives a speech, they plan out a whole speech. So why wouldn't you plan out some of how you communicate with your spouse, your friends, your coworkers, and just start looking at how you communicate and practice those skills that bring the best value to the relationship. It makes all the difference. Practice the skills that brings the best value to the relationship. Okay, last one, guys. Here we go. You ready? Look at the value and importance of communication and connecting. Connecting with someone is so important. Just because you communicate doesn't mean you connect. I know that you can go talk to someone and you feel like you walk away, you're like, yeah, there's no connection there at all. You never connected. So your goal when you talk to anybody, especially if you're in the business of sales, you're in the business of, in any kind of business, that you require communication between you and maybe a client, connecting is going to be key to having so much more and getting so much more out of the relationship if you can connect. Part of that, we go back to finding that common ground. One of the quickest ways to connect is to find common ground. That is such a big thing. Find common ground. It makes all the difference in the world. Just do that. And then practice those skills. People tell me all the time, my kids will say to me, they say, Dad, why do you talk to that person? You don't even know them. I'm like, I know, but you never know who you might meet one day. And I love talking to people because the more I talk to people, the easier it gets. So you see, as I practice, everywhere I go, I practice my communication skills with complete strangers. I practice it with my employees. I practice it with my family. I practice it with everything that I do in life. And I'm always paying very close attention to how I communicate and did what I say and how I said and how I said it, and did my body language, did it achieve any kind of positive result out of that communication? But most importantly, did it achieve a connection? Because the connection is the most important part of communication. If you can connect, you can have so much more in life by connecting. Remember this, people always remember how you made them feel. That is the number one thing. They always remember how you made them feel, and connecting in a positive way is huge. They'll never forget you. They'll never forget how you communicated to them, in what way it was done, and how you were able to connect just from it. Okay, so listen, guys, this is so much fun talking about this. So we're just going to go ahead and move this along now. How to communicate better in relationships. So the biggest thing here is just do it. Stop making excuses. You can do this. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Because you can read every book under the sun, but at the end of the day, it's your job to slay the dragon. As Steve Siebold says, it's your job to do it. Nobody else can do it for you. Okay, my name is Eric Rios. If you need help with your business, growing your life, growing your communication skills, helping your company grow to where you want to be, building your empire, just shoot me a text, 314-591-0479. I'd love to help you guys out.